Aloha! What's up, everybody? I'm JayDreamerZ, and welcome to a brand new segment on my channel called Signs and Wonders. Just to start things off, I haven't watched the news for years and years. I stopped watching the news. I'm unaware of all of the current events that are happening in our world today. I get all of my news from many of you that leave comments about things that are happening in the world, all the crazy stuff. And the reason I stopped watching the news is because I saw and I felt that everything was turning upside down. The world was becoming so crazy. I didn't want a part of it. I didn't want to be a part of it. I didn't want to hear about all the nuts, crazy upside down stuff that's happening in the world. So I took a break for, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 different years. And I decided to return to investigating the current events that are happening around our world. Why? Is because of you. Many of you have left me so many great breadcrumbs of truth when it comes to the current events that are happening in our world. I decided to start a brand new segment called Signs and Wonders to specifically focus on the harbingers, the omens, the signs that the earth is showing us and reflecting back to us of how close we're getting to that cyclical reset. The closer we get to it, the more crazy things are going to become, the more strange things we're going to see, whether they be signs and omens in the sky or on the earth or in humans or in animals or whatever it may be. And if you'd like to contribute, you could always leave some comments under this video or under this particular segment on any of the videos. You can also jump into my community tab. I'm probably going to leave a post asking if you'd like to share any of your signs and strange things that you've seen that indicate that the world is telling us things are changing. Things are headed in a different direction, right? And it tells us how close we are away from the apocalypse, basically. It's good to see everybody in the chat. Thanks for welcoming all the new people, and thanks for being here and stuff. So let's start our presentation for today. First thing I would like to talk about, as far as signs and wonders go, is the presidency, right? I'll be honest with you. I did not know who this dude was, okay, until like a few months ago. All right. That's how much I do not watch the news. This is just some senile old man to me personally. And I stopped believing in presidents and kings and queens like that, stuff like that, a long time ago, right? But this is Joe Biden. He, I guess, is the president of the United States today. Not my personal president or anything, but he's the president of the Corporation of the United States. Now, first and foremost, I will say this. I noticed an interesting trend when I was younger, when I was still watching the news and stuff, about all these presidents that are just dumb. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but the presidents of times past have, for the most part, said some really, really dumb things. They don't seem like, I always expected presidents to be very intellectual and intelligent and well articulated and things like that, but they're just the opposite of it. If anything, it reminds me of Idiocracy, right? The president that has like the AK-47 or whatever, and he acts more like a WWF wrestler, and it's just all for show. And I really started realizing that before Idiocracy even came out as a movie. So this guy's no exception. He's clearly, I've only seen a few compilation videos and stuff of like all of his different goofs, but it seems to me like he has dementia. I mean, am I the only one? Please let me know. Please let me know if I'm the only one that can clearly see that whoever this guy is, or whoever these guys are, that they have dementia, that they're not well, that there's something very wrong with their brain. And this is allegedly the person that has been voted by everyone to be the best qualified candidate to represent those of sound mind who live in this country. To me, this is a huge sign and an omen of the direction that we're heading in as a people. Every single sign and omen throughout all of the religions, they share many signs and wonders. One of those is the degradation of society. Society would become dumb. They would become immoral, corrupt, right? That they would lose their intelligence, and that they would brag about their intelligence the further they degrade. They would see evil as good and good as evil. Everything would be flipped onto its head and turned completely upside down. And that's what I'm starting to notice, or that's what I have been noticing for quite some time in the world that we live in, right? So let's start with this dude, Joe Biden. Now, this is really interesting to me because I was very interested in the whole Alex Jones, not actually being Alex Jones thing. There's many videos about how Alex Jones might actually be Bill Hicks, a different person who's a comedian who sort of does this Alex Jones kind of voice or whatever. That's my Alex Jones, or that's my Bill Hicks Alex Jones voice. But anyways, this is similar, right? Have you noticed? Have you ever seen this? That all these different depictions of Biden, he looks way different. Like, and here's the thing too. If you look this up, like, does Joe Biden have a clone, or does he have a body double, or whatever? It's actually difficult. It was difficult for me to find any useful or relevant information on what I was looking for on the internet. It's been scrubbed. You know what I mean? And I know that these are all over the place because they're little gems in the internet that I have to go searching for. And I found many other people who have noticed that he looks way different sometimes. I'll point out some peculiarities. Most notably, some people have pointed out his earlobes. Check this out. So this is Biden when he was young, apparently. He's got rounded, separated earlobes, right? Here's another picture of alleged Joe Biden. And then down here, check out the earlobe. It's totally not separate from the face. There is no lobe really. It's just kind of attached right there. And the same thing's going on over here. I thought that was really strange. And even stranger is I can't seem to find, like anything, not much on this particular subject. It looks like the internet that's another sign of our times, that the internet itself, free access to open-minded information, is being scrubbed. It's being scrubbed all over the place. So I'm going to bask in what I do while I still can do stuff like this, while I can still share this weird information with you guys, stuff that's not mainstream or anything like that. There's also some different features too. There's some different pictures. Let me show you some examples here, right? Where they look like a totally different person. And this is the president. I've gone down conspiracy tunnel after conspiracy tunnel, where it looks like that there have been some sort of clones that were introduced in place of celebrities, or clones or doubles, or whatever you want to call them, doppelgangers that were put in place of people that were seen at different events that have happened that were traumatic events and stuff like that, right? So it's not a new concept whatsoever. It's just interesting that it's so in your face. Look at this one. Like, he looks like he should be in the Lord of the Rings or something right there, right? The dude definitely looks really strange. I saw a video where his eye was filling up with blood. Did you guys see that? Did you see that weird one where his eye was all filling up with blood? So yeah, really interesting stuff here. Might not be the same guy. And then on the internet and the major news outlets, they act as if it's not possible for the president to have a body double or a clone or anything like that. When we're shown this time and time again that they do, that presidents and other notable figures, kings and queens and stuff, that they do use body doubles. I mean, think about it. If you use body doubles for actors in Hollywood because you don't want your precious actor anything bad to happen to them, so they put in stunt doubles and stuff like that, doesn't it seem reasonable to assume that they may also do something similar for the most important figure in your country? It seems reasonable to me. Now, I'm not saying that he is a clone or anything like that. I'm saying that collectively, all of the things that we're about to look at are signs and wonders. It's the world speaking to us, right? All right, so I also found this one. So I guess in other news, there was a meteor, a space rock that crashed into Texas. This is it. This is, I don't know, like I guess it broke up into some pieces or whatever. They say on the internet, they're saying that it weighed 1,000 pounds. 1,000 pounds. And it smashed into Texas. So my question is, where's the huge crater? I don't live in Texas. I'm really asking people who live in Texas. Is there a huge, gigantic crater from this 1,000-pound rock, or even pieces of its debris smashing into the ground, just like we've been taught in academics our entire lives that this is what rocks from space do when they weigh a bunch, when they're very dense and we're traveling at super crazy speeds. When they smash into the Earth, they leave behind impact craters. This picture that's circulating the internet right now is a regular old rock in the sand. Like, I don't know if somebody took it out of a giant crater and set it here specifically to like take a picture of it and put some dust on it. I don't know what's going on here. But regardless, and regardless, when I share these signs and wonders, try to think about taking them in as a whole, as opposed to just each individual thing, right? Because I could break down this rock individually and it could seem like it's not really that big of a deal. But whenever we add more context and we put context on top of context, then things become Abby Oz. Hey, thank you. Super appreciate you. Thank you. The more context we get, the closer we get to the truth, basically. I got to change that popcorn. Oh, snap. Look at that. Whoop-pow. That's awesome. Thanks again, Abby. So yeah, where's the crater, right? And this is the third one in like the last week, allegedly, that is space rocks that are just smashing into the Earth, right? These things were not a common occurrence when I was growing up. Not in the 80s, not in the 90s. Stuff like this would be a big deal, and it would be talked about for months and stuff, you know? Now we're starting to see these strange anomalies, whether they be with catastrophic weather anomalies, which we'll talk about, or politics, or people, or animals walking in circles, or swarming, increasing in insects all over the world, and animals and people alike. All of these things, right? They weren't, like, we didn't have words like space weather. Like, there's no weather in space. What is that? You have to have pressure to have weather. Like, then you're telling me space is a vacuum. There's all kinds of weird new things that are popping up since I was a kid that were not common, that were a big deal. Like, this is just, people are going to forget about this in a few days, you know? That's why I wanted to do this segment too, so that we don't forget about it. Earth's magnetic North Pole is hurtling towards Russia. That's huge, right? So they say that, over 100 years ago that they, academics, mainstream academics, were tracking the movement of the magnetic North Pole, and that it was going slowly, that it was moving, which is interesting in and of itself. I believe that that's a whole course of discussion to talk about the Earth's poles moving and shifting, as opposed to being reliable and being in the same place all of the time, right? Them switching around has an effect on everything on that world. Everything in that world. It has an effect on us. Is it any kind of coincidence? Not that I believe in coincidences, but is it a coincidence that the world itself we have all these different news stories of the world shifting, of the world reversing direction, of the world changing and doing something totally different, doing a 180. And then it reciprocates with the people. We're seeing the people do a 180. We're seeing the people go into flux. We're seeing the people acting upside down and backwards all over the place, right? If we scroll down to the bottom of this particular article, there's an interesting thing that they saved for last, which I felt like would have been good to read at the very beginning of the article. But it says that there have been a few theories about why the pole's movement has increased in recent years. Well, so they have no idea. Okay, so like collectively they have theories, which is all they have, really. That's all they really have. They have theories, and the more high fives they give each other for their theories, the more their theory leans towards what they would call a fact, which is everyone else is wrong and we are right. That's kind of academics for me. It says there have been a few theories about why the pole's movement has increased in recent years, from around 6 miles a year between 1900 and 1980, before accelerating, getting faster. It's speeding up. This is another theme you're going to see in all of these signs and omens, is things quickening. There's a quickening that's happened in our world. Things are speeding up and reversing and going faster and amplifying and increasing at exponential rates never before seen, right? So quickly that it's not even that people have grown accustomed to them. They're just accustomed to constant change and constant shifting because everything's going into flux. And those of you who have been born into, this past decade or two, you're growing up in a world that is in flux. So for you, this is normal. For you, this is something that you can see all of the time. For some of us older people, this is a huge sudden change. I mean, it started off gradual, right? But the closer we get to the end, if it was a bar graph, it would just shoot straight up, just like that. All right, so it went from 6 miles a year. The sun's magnetic pole traveled between 6 miles a year in 1900 and 1980 before accelerating in 1980. This is the time, this is my decade, okay? 80s and 90s. Before accelerating to around 24 to 31 miles a year. That's fast. I mean, you know what I mean? That should be bells and whistles all over the place. In the past 2 decades, just in the past 2 decades, exponentially increasing its speed. It's in a hurry. It's in a rush. Why? Where's it going? It has a destination, I'm assuming, right? This is the quickening. It's in a rush. It's in a hurry. And I think there's a good reason for that. Some scientists think that a jet stream, this is going to be interesting to read. Some scientists think that a jet stream of molten liquid is pushing the North Pole. Okay, it's always funny to me when I read how academics speak, like especially those who would put down others who they make out to have lesser intellect. The way that they talk is just so fantastic and childish sometimes. Some scientists believe that there is a jet stream of molten liquid pushing the North Pole, while others have suggested that the south and north magnetic poles are reversing positions. That would be closer to what I'm thinking is going on here. The poles are moving, so they're flipping. They're in the process of flipping. They're moving. That's what this is. They should be stagnant. They should be reliable. They should be something that we can count on for our GPS and our directions and knowing which way to go and our internal clocks and animals migrating and so many things. It's not. It no longer is. It's no longer reliable. It's in flux, which should tell us something. It's a sign. They go on to say, there's nothing to worry about. Like when we do our Truth in Movies segment, right? If you haven't seen my Truth in Movies segment, go check it out. I break down all this same exact types of esoteric information, but I apply it to the things that are dropped to us in Hollywood, in the movies. In the movies, they always have somebody that figures it out, usually some sort of conspiracy theorist or some sort of an explorer or question asker or somebody. And they're like, oh, guys, the world's going to end. Oh, guys, a cataclysm is on the way. And there's always government officials and academics who are saying, no, everyone, this person's crazy. There's nothing to worry about. Just the sheer numbers of instances where I personally have seen that tells me that something is not right. It tells me that that's a message being conveyed to us, right? They say there's nothing to worry about. It is unusual behavior. Listen, when the earth stops being usual and it becomes unusual, that is something for you to worry about. They don't worry about it because I'm using that term loosely, they are preparing for these things, right? There are some people who may or may not be in the know, right? Some people who may be, looking into cyclical resets and whatnot. So there's nothing for them to worry about because they're investigating, they're researching for millennia after millennia since the oceans were introduced, right? They've kept their eyes on the skies and meticulously tracked all of the stars and the patterns and everything that's up there, right? So they don't have anything to worry about. They tell us, don't panic. Why? You know why. Because you are their energy. They're piggybacking off of your energy, okay? They're using you as currency, actual current, actual energy that flows. And the moment that you panic and start and stop relying upon the system that has been set up to benefit the few and to crush everybody else, is whenever they start to lose control. And they would like to keep control all the way up until the very end. As a matter of fact, I believe that they would like many of us to survive, excuse me, so that they can take their slaves with them into the next era or whatever, right? They say it is unusual behavior in historical terms. Also, just a personal thing, that's an extra suffix. Okay, this goes back to idiocracy, okay? I love languages. I love words. I love spelling. I love etymology. I love those are things that are my area of expertise. Those things that I enjoy. I like words. I like the right brain. I like pictures and stuff like that. When they say things like historic all, it just bugs me personally, because that's idiocracy. That's not necessary. All you need to say is historic. There's already a suffix there. The IC at the end means like history. You know what I mean? Historical or whatever. Like, they keep on putting all these extra prefixes and suffixes, and it confuses the language. They make it more difficult, right? Anyways, it's more unusual behavior in historic terms by geological, that's another one, scales. It is not unusual. So, doesn't that sound contradictory? Well, it's unusual, but at the same time, it's not unusual. What the hell? Who buys that? I don't buy that. I can see the clear contradiction in statement that was just made. So there's seems to be a contradiction there, which means that if we look hard enough, we will find a sign. We will find an omen, right? We'll dig a little deeper to find the truth. They go on to say the magnetic field changes continuously. But it is partly because of its natural behavior. Okay, so here's what they're really saying. They're trying to do damage control before it ever even comes, before any of these things get worse or anything. They're trying to indoctrinate all of you to think this is just normal. This is just healthy. Yeah, over the span of thousands of years, that's normal. Sorry, I didn't mean to get so loud. Over the span of hundreds of years, that might be normal. Over the span of 2 decades, all of a sudden, all these things are popping up all over the place? No. And then the more of them that we put together, the less normal it actually is. We live during the abnormal part of history, right? We're entering into flux, basically. All right, let's move on. The Earth's inner core may right now be in the process of changing direction. Also, the way that they word that, I don't know if you guys ever watched George Carlin. George Carlin was my favorite comedian probably ever. And he had this stand-up routine when he was talking about the way that the lady on the plane talks, or how they speak at airports and stuff. And one time she said, we'd like to begin the pre-boarding. And George Carlin calls her out. He's like, pre-boarding? What is that? To get on before you get on? Place this turkey in a preheated oven. What does that mean? This program was pre-recorded. How do you pre-record something? You record it. You know what I mean? It's very simple terminology, but they say things like that. The Earth may right now be in the process. You don't need to say in the process or anything. It is a process. We understand that. You know what I mean? This is patronizing speak, okay? They talk to us like we're children and babies because most of us are. Okay, this is my experience and my path in life. I look around. I take a look around. I take note. I listen. I observe, especially the people around me, because, man, they reciprocate the energy and the flux of that energy that the Earth's going into so easily. So that's why I do enjoy watching people, because they're like little mirrors of what's going on. I can see what's going on with the world. Anyways, the core of the Earth might be. Sometimes they say inner, or that's right, it says inner core. Isn't that weird too? Core means core, right? What do you mean inner core? Core is the inner. I get it. See, this is just, I want to push this picture away because it's offensive to my personal intellect, I guess. Anyways, it's idiocracy, okay? This is how they speak to us. They have dumbed down our language. They have dumbed down our ability to understand and comprehend things on our own. And they just tell us what to expect. Not only that, but this right here, they share pictures like this. Pictures always speak on two levels to me, right? The surface level and the deeper level, right? On the surface level, this looks like a hole in the ground that goes way deep into the earth. On another level, it kind of looks like something that's up in the sky as well, like a black sun or something, right? Anyways, they say that the core of the Earth is slowing down. I'm just going to sum up this entire article. There's hundreds of these on the internet. You can easily find them. But they're saying that, they've knocked on the ground and they've listened for the echoes and all that stuff. And now they just know that the Earth's core is slowing down. Oh my God. Don't get me started. I don't believe academics knows what is actually in the earth, right? But I'll let them have their, their designs and their models or whatever. But why is this a sign? Why is this an omen? Because this is the heart of the earth, the center, the inside center of the earth that they're talking about. What happens with the heart is reciprocated and it is felt and changes the body. Right? Whatever is going on at the central portion will be extended out to the external portions, basically. So the thing that is happening with the inside of the earth or the heart of the earth, it is changing. It's slowing down and stopping, which means it's going to go into flux up here on the surface, and then it's going to start going the other way. I'm not agreeing with the whole core and how the earth is layered with like onions or I don't know. But I am saying that there's truth to this, okay? Regardless, if whether or not I believe in their cosmology or in their teachings or whatever, I still can recognize the truth, the little breadcrumbs of truth that they're sharing with us, right? So the core of the earth may be changing directions, going to slowing down and getting ready to spin the other way, which is a sign for a reversal, for an electromagnetic reversal. Now let's check this out. In other news, our days are shorter. The earth is spinning faster. Okay, check this out. All right. One, that's... I'm speechless right now. When I was growing up and I went to school, right, throughout all of my academic training in the system, I became an expert on all of this Jeopardy trivia, which is all it's good for. Okay, for the most part, right? The only thing that are actually useful skills that I was taught in all of my countless years of going to various levels of schools and schoolings is how to write, how to read, and how to do basic math. Those are like the three important things of stuff that's actually applicable, practical in my life. Everything else is trivia, and half that trivia is not accurate. Okay. Anyways, so our days are shorter. The earth is spinning faster. There's a billion articles all about this on the internet too. Basically what they're saying is that the days are getting shorter. So how do they explain that? There are many people, I've come across on my path, many people who have predicted this. Okay. Jesus, in the Bible, okay, predicted this. Okay, this is not news. This is not brand new to know about, but what you're seeing is prophecy fulfilled. Okay, this was not happening and now it is happening. The days are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, which is why so many of us are tired and some of us can't sleep and so many of us, constantly are saying like, man, that year went by fast. Man, last week went by fast. You know what I mean? It's because it is actually going by fast. So mainstream academics needs to explain this away. Their reasoning, their rationale is that, well, what causes our days? The spinning, wobbling, tilting, globular, lava-filled, water-topped mass that is traveling through uncharted nothingness, following a giant fireball in a vacuum, that it spins around and that gives us our daytime. So they have to take the anomaly and apply it to their old guesses on how things are made, basically, right? They have their cosmology. So now they have to take this anomalous thing that's going on and apply it to their cosmology. If they applied it to older cosmologies, it might make a lot more sense why the days are getting shorter and shorter, which is something I've talked about in my Plasma Apocalypse playlist many, many times about the days getting shorter. So why are the days getting shorter? Because the thing called the sun is heating up, getting hotter, and it's spinning and it's going faster. It's going in circles faster and faster. And you're going to see the days get shorter and shorter and shorter. And people like this are going to continuously regurgitate their opinions and ideas that were handed to them on a silver platter by their masters. And they're going to tell us, well, this is what I heard. This is the explanation. This is the truth of what's going on. Does it even make sense? Like, I used to play basketball a lot, right? And I would spin the ball on my finger. No way I could ever spin that ball on my finger, not apply an outward force to it, and to have it speed up. It doesn't do that, okay? That's not the natural order of things. And they'll try to make up all kinds of reasons why, oh, well, the ice at the top, it's like melting. And so it makes the earth spin faster. Okay. No, not okay. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. The ice is melting, that tiny speck of ice in comparison to the gigantic mass of earth that you say that it is. Something's messed up, okay, with their official explanation. To me, it does not add up. Regardless, the days are getting shorter, which is what Jesus warned us of in the Bible, that you need to watch for the shortening of the days. The days are going to get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. At the other end of the spectrum, leading up to the other apocalypse of those who will live in the red sky, they'll experience the opposite. They'll actually experience their days getting longer and longer and longer and longer. We're on the short end of the stick, which is good, right? You could look at this as being good news because things are happening so quickly. That means that we're going to experience all of that power of all of the flux and crazy signs and omens and wars and rumors of wars and people losing their minds and the world being upside down for a short period of time. That's good news for people like myself because I look forward to it all coming to an end and starting over. I would not want it to last any longer. All right, so the days are getting shorter. The earth is spinning faster. Like, how does that even... You know what I mean? Like so much behind modern cosmology. I've got so many questions for everybody. You know what I mean? I mean, not really. I used to have so many questions. Now I'm content with going back to the way that my ancestors did them and to doing independent research. All right, let's move on. Next up, we've got article, how a disturbed polar vortex could bring... something. Oh, so they're talking, this is news articles about how there is, at the North Pole of our world, there is this is another new word. This is not a polar vortex was not a word that was thrown around when I was a kid growing up. It's not like they talked about, hey, how's the weather? Well, the polar vortex is acting weird lately. People didn't talk like that when I was a kid. They didn't talk about polar vortices and things like that. Pardon me. But anyways, our own North Pole, the activity that is at our North Pole is acting up. It's acting strange. Add this to the core of the Earth slowing down. Add this to the days speeding up, which is really weird too. Like they say that the inside of the Earth is slowing down, but the outside is speeding up. Like, what kind of Earth do you live on? What kind of weird place is that? Like, that's so strange. Anyways, they say that there's disturbances in the force at the North Pole of our own world, basically, and that's causing all this strange activity and anomalous weather, right? What they say is that above the North Pole, up there in the stratosphere, it has warmed up, that the stratosphere is suffering a warming. Here, let me actually read this article. This is from the Washington Post. Not that I super care, but it says how a predicted polar vortex disruption could spur winter's revenge. And then I'll take you down to... Oh, do I have it highlighted? Damn, it took my highlight off. Well, here's an image, right? Here's an image of the polar vortex that's right above the North Pole there. And basically they're saying that the stratosphere is warming up. So... I've got two ideas on that. One could be the sun, possibly, right? Like I said before, the sun seems to be heating up to me. I can remember when the sun was not so microwavingly hot, okay? When it was not so, such a ridiculously strong, bright white light up there. You know what I mean? Like I can remember a time when the sun was way different, and I'm not even that old, right? So it could be the sun that's actually getting hot and heating up the atmosphere up there as it goes along and dragging a little tail or a little swirl of hot air all the way around it that has to reach equilibrium with the rest of the air around it that's not used to that. That's one possibility. Another one is the zephyr of the world, which I'll talk about here in just a minute. So this Washington Post article says that it all begins in the stratosphere, where computer models up in the stratosphere. I'm just kidding. Where computer models are coming into agreement that temperatures may leap 60 degrees in the coming week in the stratosphere. Right? That's huge. Signaling what's known as a sudden stratospheric warming event. A sudden stratospheric warming event. Well, anything that happens is an event, right? So suddenly the stratosphere is getting hot. Like, it's really all you need to say. They try to make it sound so intellectual. The stratosphere is getting hot. So how could that be possible? Like we talked about, one idea is that the sun itself is getting warm, but another is the zephyr. Most people that I've met don't know much about the zephyr or what a zephyr actually is. So let's learn. The zephyr, or Zephyr, was the Greek god of the west wind, which was considered the gentlest of all of the winds, especially if compared to the colder north wind, Boreas. The warm west wind brought the spring season, right? So now they're talking about how that warm, or they're talking about how the stratosphere is warming up. This is all creating wind. Keep that in mind, okay? Like anything that moves in the atmosphere is going to create wind. All right. Any type of change in heat or cold or temperature or whatever is going to create wind. So let me get right to the point. There's in the old times, and I'll probably do a more extensive video on this in the future, but they had various gods, especially gods of different wind locations, right? There were specific locations that were named as being gods of the wind. This kind of a wind comes from this particular direction. So they slapped a name on it, they cartoonified it, they called it a god, and that was good, right? There was Boreas, as we've learned about, right? Which is the Arctic Circle area. That's why it's such a cold wind. That whole area around the Arctic Circle is filled with freezing cold air, basically, right? We all know this. But if you go beyond the northern wind, there is the zephyr, right? What is the zephyr? Now, here on the internet, you'll read that they call it the west wind. But there really is no west and there really is no east, right? Or there wasn't considered to be a west and east as far as left and right when you're facing the North Pole or away from it, right? West was down into the bowels of the earth. West was inward. West was going into a cavernous system, into the hollow recesses of the world you live in. East was the opposite. It was going upwards, right? A westerly wind means that the earth is breathing from the inside outward, okay, which is the inner earth depressurizing. So keep that in mind. Anyways, the western zephyr, the zephyr wind that comes out of Mount Meru, the earth breathes. Okay, this is a form of breathing, basically. If you see the earth as being alive and sentient as I do and some others, then this is an action that we call breathing. Okay. And it depressurizes the hollow recesses on the inside, which has an effect on them living down there below us. But right now we live up here, so we're going to talk about the surface and how it affects us when they depressurize, right? Volcanoes, all this type of stuff creates zephyrs. But at Mount Meru and other cavernous openings, you'll notice that the caves create wind. Where's all the wind coming from? If it just dead ends into the frickin' lava, you know what I mean? Like that's not, something's not right there. Anyways, the earth breathes, okay? And the biggest breath comes from Mount Meru directly at the North Pole, at the center of our world, which is why when you transgress, when you go past the boundaries and the limitations that are set by the northerly winds or the Boreas or the boreal winds or the winds of the bar, the winds that surround the bar, which is kind of what that means. When you go past those, or Hyperborea, then it becomes warm again, which is what many stories of those who have made it that far reflect. They tell us that things became tropical, things became nice, the air became warm, the water became drinkable, etc., right? That is the zephyr. That's why not 21 Pilots, Red Hot Chili Peppers has a song that talks about the zephyr. And if you apply this teaching to that song, I feel like it's going to open up a lot of a deeper level of understanding as to what that song is about. So that is the zephyr. That wind might actually help when it comes to that leap of faith that I've referred to on my channel many times, where you have to like jump in and it looks like, it's not a good idea, but it turns out you land perfectly fine. All right, so that's the zephyr. Now, speaking of polar vortices, we've got the sun, allegedly. I don't know what that is, but that's what they say is the sun down here, right? And there was this strange tornado of fire or plasma, I should say, allegedly that developed at the North Pole, causing this polar fire vortex on the sun, right? whether or not this is true, regardless, like discard it whether or not this is actually true when looking through things through the lens of signs and omens, predictions, prophecy, harbingers, things that tell us that there's change on the way. And usually to us, that implies cataclysm, right? So we've got this firestorm at the North Pole of the sun that's happening, this fiery tornado thing or whatever, right? At the polar vortex, once again, the poles. Now, everybody, I don't say everybody, I have understood for quite some time, excuse me, one moment. I have understood personally for quite some time, I've researched the fractal nature of our reality. And I have learned that reflections exist all over the place, reflecting the great and the grand and the large scale and the macrocosm in the tiniest of things and vice versa, right? This is a reflection of our world. This is a sign and a big fat notice saying, hey, North Pole, hey, polar, hey, vortex, hey, fire, right? Because the next one will come by fire, the next world cataclysm, I should say. And then there's also some other stories too about other poles on other planets or something like that, how they're all acting weird and stuff. So it's all very much related. Now this kind of, you might not have seen this, I don't know, but I just came across this. It looks like Matrix code. What you're looking at is the sky in Hawaii. Okay. And there's somebody recorded this. There's an observatory. I think that little dome is like the observatory in Hawaii. And it totally recorded this green laser light just boom, flashing down in these straight lines as it went across the sky, whatever it was. Like Matrix code, just raining down onto Hawaii, basically. I thought this was really weird and really strange. Like stuff like this, they'll jump on TV, they'll jump on the news, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's totally, this is the reason for that. Whatever the reason, that's new. Okay? That's not something I am used to. That's a new thing. That's a new thing, is lasers, green lasers being shot down from wherever, way up there in the sky. Now I've read some articles on it and they say like, oh yeah, totally normal. It's one of our little satellite deals that we have, and it totally, always shoots that laser so that it can record how much ice is on the earth so we can figure out how fast the earth is going to start spinning or whatever they say. This is weird. This is what I'm saying. Okay. This is strange. This is anomalous. This is a sign. This is a sign. Whatever the explanation of whatever it actually is, it matters not. As Al-Anon would say from the Shannara Chronicles. It matters not. This is a sign. This is something weird happening in the sky. Why is there all this weird stuff happening over the skies in Hawaii as well? Right? Like, this is also over Hawaii. There was another circular blue spirally whirlpool in the sky that just floated across the sky. And it's not the first time that we've seen this. It's definitely not the first time I've seen it, right? There was this same exact sort of bluish white whirlpool thing has been seen in many different places in the past, like, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, I would say, right? This is something strange that's starting to become normal in our world today, right? Man, this is not normal, okay? To see some strange spiraling, weird, galaxy looking things just floating around up there in the sky. Angel Wings just gifted a membership. Wow, somebody's going to jump on it super fast. I already know. Thanks, Angel Wings. All right, anyways, this is really weird, right? I mean, what they're going to say is, oh yeah, it's SpaceX. That's their answer for everything now, is just, oh, it's SpaceX, and we think it might be this, and it could be this. See what they say. I'm going to pretend to be academics, okay? They say, see what that is right there is, yeah, that's just, rocket fuel out there in space, and it's just being ejected and it's swirling around in space or whatever. Even if that was true, just like I told you, I have a problem with them ejecting dead people into space in the movies. This is littering. Okay. At the very least, I don't know what it actually is, but if the story's true that this is SpaceX shooting their crap into space and it's just shooting gas and diesel and whatever kind of crap they use to get out there, you're littering the beauty of space, the cleanliness and purity of what you call space. I'm against that. I don't know who authorized this. I haven't heard of, everyone in the world needs to vote, for like how we represent humanity when we go out into the space and stuff. It's just like, oh yeah, Elon Musk did that because he also put a car up there. With whose permission? You know what I mean? Like we little people down here, we have to get permission to go to bed, to sit down, to go to the bathroom and say, thank you, may I have another when we get in trouble and stuff. Super rich people are shooting cars out into space. You know what I mean? If their astronauts die, they're going to probably eject them out there and just let dead bodies never rot and forever just float around bouncing into crap. They're hitting other asteroids trying to redirect their path. Did they even consider that you might have redirected it and possibly caused a future destruction of some other world? Like that, for all of the scientific alleged know-how and intelligence, I sure see a lack of it whenever I listen to the news and I watch what's going on with NASA and all these other agencies and stuff. This is crazy, right? Isn't it weird? Hey, just a heads up too. I did some updating. I stayed up all night last night to sort of update like the member badges. So I hope you like them. I made them a little more cool looking. So there's some brand new member badges. There's a couple of brand new emojis. When we get more members, YouTube allows me to put more unique original emojis into the chat for the members and stuff like that. So I hope that you enjoy that. I may or may not jump on in a little bit to do a follow-up video, but if I do, it's just going to be a laid back one. I have another segment. I've got so many segments on my channel now. I've got another segment called Masterpiece Mad Libs where I just casually hang out in the chat and we use AI to I take prompts from the chat and we use AI to create works of art and, beautiful, interesting things to check out. So that is my presentation. Thanks so much for joining me for this very first edition of Signs and Wonders. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have signs and wonders of any kind that you would like to share, I highly recommend leaving them in the description. And if you can leave a link, go ahead and leave a link or whatever. If it's a video, leave a timestamp. That way I'm not asked to watch like a 3-hour long video or whatever. And look for the community section. I may make a post pretty soon, with an email address so that if you want to like send me an email, like, hey, Jay, I totally saw this crazy thing happen, an earthquake over in Turkey. It was this big or whatever. Send that my way. And look out for that in the community tab because I'm going to go through that. Try to be easy on me. Make it so it's not so time consuming. If you do send me some information, try to get right to the nuts and bolts. Try to get right to the juicy stuff. Just because imagine, there's hundreds of people that might end up emailing me and it takes a lot of time to go over all of those notes. But regardless, this entire segment is because of all of you. So I want to thank you genuinely for always sharing with me the crazy stuff that's happening in the world. I'm going to take that. I'm going to stop running away from it and I'm going to share it with the rest of the world as I see it. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
So hard to fade away. I try so hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be
Only you in this vast multiverse.
Your powers to rise.